So homework 27 starts off, we're going to multiply binomials. A binomial just means that there's two terms. U plus 1 is two terms. U minus 5 is two terms. So I'm multiplying binomials. Probably when you did this in high school, they called it foiling. When you FOIL, you do the first ones together. Oh, I gotta change my pen here. Oh, it won't let me erase. I have to close it. It's on Microsoft Ink instead of the other one. Don't save that. Smart Ink, that's what it's supposed to be on. Let's see if it stays. So when we multiply binomials, we're going to FOIL. So we're going to do the first ones together, the outside pair, the inside pair, and then the last. So when they're talking about the first, they're saying the first one in each set of parentheses. So I'm going to do the u times the u. If I do u times u, I'm adding my exponents, so 1 plus 1 is 2. U times u is u squared. Then I'm going to do the outside pair. So I'm going to take the u times the minus 5. If I take u times minus 5 in algebra, we just put the number right in front of our variable, so we just have negative 5u. Then we do the inside pair. 1 times u is just u. I would just probably put it as plus 1u while I'm working, just to remind myself that that's really a 1. And then I'm going to do the last pair. 1 times negative 5. 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. When you FOIL it out, those two middle terms, the outside and the inside, are like terms. We can combine those. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. So I have u squared minus 4u minus 5. Now, no, I really probably don't write that out every time, but just to explain what they're talking about for FOILing. The first, the outside, the inside, the last. It just gives you a pattern to follow so you can keep track of where you're at. So if I look at the second one, I'm going to start out with the v times the v. V times v would be
v squared.
E squared. Then I do my outside, so v times a positive 4.
4v.
Plus 4v. And then I do the inside pair, negative 3 times v. Minus 3v, and then I do the last, negative 3 times positive 4, minus 12. I'm then going to combine my middle terms, so a 4v minus a 3v would be a v plus v. So my answer, v squared plus v minus 12. And I get what's called a trinomial because there's 3 terms in my answer. So if I'm going to FOIL the third one, multiplying that out, the first one I would get
Y squared.
y squared, then I would get
Negative 6y.
negative 6y, and then I would have
Positive 1y.
positive 1y, and then I would get
Negative 6.
negative 6. Combining my like terms, my answer then is going to be
Y squared minus 5y minus 6.
exactly. You've done that before. So then we are going to multiply some binomials that have 2 variables instead of just 1 variable. Same kind of thing, I'm just FOILing. So I'm going to take 5a times 5a.
25a squared.
25a squared, exactly. 5a times a positive 8b.
Plus 40ab.
Plus 40ab. And on your variables, an AB and a BA are the same thing. Normally we'll put them in alphabetical order just so we recognize when we get our middle terms they're like terms, but it's the same thing whether you have them AB or BA. Inside term, negative b times 5a.
Negative 5ab.
Negative 5ab. And then the last, the negative b times the positive 8b.
Negative 8 squared.
Negative 8b squared. So again, my middle term should be like terms. I'm going to be able to add or subtract in this case. So 25a squared plus 35ab minus 8b squared is going to go in for my answer. And just to remind you, I was telling the introductory algebra class, and some people didn't realize that if you're up in the exponent, if you just hit your space bar, your cursor will move down instead of having to take your mouse and click. If you just put in the 25a squared and hit the space, then it goes back down so you're not up in the exponent anymore. And it's a little quicker to do. Number 5 then, if we multiply 4y times 8y.
32y squared.
32y squared. 4y times negative 3z.
Minus 12yz.
12yz. Negative 3z times 8y.
Negative 24yz.
Negative 24yz, and then a negative 3z times another negative 3z.
Plus 9z squared.
Plus 9z squared. So combining our middle terms, our answer,
32y squared minus 36yz plus 9z squared.
exactly. 32y squared minus 36yz plus 9z squared. Number 6, same thing. If we FOIL that one out, our first term would be
5x squared.
5x squared. Our outside,
Negative 8wx.
okay. My inside,
15wx.
positive 15wx. And then
Negative 24w squared.
negative 24w squared. So our answer,
5x squared plus 7wx minus 24w squared.
oops, I'm trying to write my w instead of my 4. 5x squared plus 7wx minus 24w squared. Now the next thing, say we are multiplying conjugate binomials. A conjugate means that you have the same terms just with the opposite sign in the middle. And there's a special case that happens when you do that, but we're going to start just by FOILing it out like we normally would, because you might look at it and not recognize that it's a conjugate. So you just do it like you did the rest of them. 7u times 7u,
49u squared
49u squared. 7u times a minus 5.
minus 35u
Minus 35u. On the inside, 5 times 7u
plus 35u
plus 35u, and then the last,
negative
negative 25. So when you multiply conjugates, the middle terms end up being opposites. They're going to cancel out, and you're going to get what's called the difference of perfect squares. 49u squared minus 25. Both of those are perfect squares, and you're subtracting, and therefore it's the difference of my perfect squares. And so when you multiply conjugates, that should always happen. You get the difference of perfect squares. So number 8, if we multiply that one out, we would get
4
4
minus 6x.
if you do the inside, you get a
Oh,
minus
plus-
6x,
plus 6x.
plus 6x, and a minus 6x. And then we get
Negative 6. Oh, wait, no. Yeah. Negative 9.
like, negative 9x squared, right?
Yeah.
So that the plus 6x and the minus 6x are going to cancel out. They're going to be opposites. And so we're just going to have 4 minus 9x squared. So on Alex, if you look at their explanation, they'll probably take a shortcut because they know the middle terms are going to cancel out. Said on the assessment, you may or may not recognize it, so if you just FOIL it out the long way, you're still going to get the answer in the end. So number 9, if we multiply that one out, we're going to get
a squared minus 6a plus 6a minus 36.
and so our answer, a squared minus 36. Number 10, 11, and 12, we are squaring binomials. And we have to be careful with that squaring. You can only apply the property if you're multiplying or dividing in there, but when you're adding, You can't just say, oh, I'm going to square the first one and square the last one. You're not going to get the correct answer. So you have to think about what squaring really means. If I square something, it means I'm taking something times itself. So basically what you're going to do is just write it down twice and you end up foiling it out. So when you FOIL that, you're going to get
U
u
squared
squared
plus 5u
plus 5u
plus 5u
plus a second 5u
plus 25.
plus 25. So you notice that the two middle terms end up being the exact same thing. Of course, you're going to add those together, and you're going to get u squared plus 10u plus 25. Now on Alex, what they're going to tell you that's going to happen is you square the first, that's the u squared. You're going to take 2 times the first times the last. So 2 times u would be 2u. 2u times 5 is 10u. And then you can square the last, 25. It's a shortcut, it works. But, I don't know, it's just as easy to write it down twice and FOIL it. But they say, square the first, 2 times the first times the last, and then square the last. Number 11 there. If I would FOIL that one out, I would take 4v minus 4 times the second 4v minus 4. So I would get
16v squared
16v squared
minus 16v
16v
16
minus a second 16v
plus 16
plus 16. So my answer, 16v squared minus 32v plus 16. So if I squared the first, I get 16v squared. If I take 2 times the 4v, it's 8v. 8v times a minus 4 is the minus 32. And then squaring my negative 4, I get a positive 16. I think people mess up on their signs when they do that, but that's what they're going to tell you on Alex. On number 12, if I FOIL that one out, I would get
4y squared
4y squared
plus 12y
plus 12y
plus 12y
plus what?
12y
Another 12y
plus 36
plus 36. So my answer,
4y squared plus 24y plus 36.
4y squared plus 24y plus 36. You guys said this is easy. I already know how to do this. 13, 14, and 15, just multiplying things that are a little bit longer. The principle is really still the same. You're going to take the 3v times each of those, the y times each of those, and the negative 4 times each of those. So 3v times 4v would be
12v squared.
12v squared. Then I'm going to take the 3v times the minus y,
Minus 3y
minus 3vy. Then I'm going to do the middle term. So 3y times 4v
plus 12
plus 12vy, and then the 3y times the minus y,
negative 3y squared
negative 3y squared. Then I'm going to do the last term times each of those. Negative 4 times 4v,
negative 16v
negative 16v, and negative 4 times a negative y,
plus 4.
plus 4y. I then look to see if there's anything I can combine. I can combine those two terms with the vy, and so I'm going to have 12v squared, negative 3 plus 12 would give me positive 9vy minus 3y squared minus 16v plus 4y. Now on Alex, they'll probably rearrange this a little bit. They put the answer in what's called descending order, so they probably put the two with the squared terms first, then the term with the two variables, and then the ones with one variable, just because it's fun. Not that you have to do it. Now, because you're getting a lot longer problems, if you happen to be somebody who gets confused or lose your spot, or you have a little kid that interrupts you or whatever it is, one technique that some books do is this. They make a box. and they say, okay, I'm going to take the 2u plus 7 times the 5u minus 3y minus 2, just to keep themselves organized at where they're at. It's up to you if you want to do it that way, or if you want to do it this way, you should get the same answers. 2u times 5u, 10u squared. 2u times a negative 3y.
Minus negative 6uy.
Should have made my boxes a little bigger. 2u times minus 2.
Negative 4u.
Negative 4u. So now I've done that first bunch, I can do the second bunch. 7 times 5u.
35u squared.
35, just a u, right? It's just one of them has a u. 7 times minus 3y.
Negative 21y.
Got my u on there. Negative 21y. And then 7 times minus 2.
Negative 14.
Negative 14. So, make sure you have a u on that last one. I don't know why I didn't write it down, because I'm sure you said it. My like terms here, if I look, are going to be my 35u and my minus 4u in this case. So I have a 10u squared. I've got a minus 6uy. I have 35 minus 4, which would be 31u, minus 21y, and minus 14. And all of that would have to go in for my answer then. So number 15, now it's even a little bit longer. We have 3 of them times 3 of them. Do you want to use the boxes, or you just want to multiply it out the long way?
Just use the boxes.
Use the boxes. Make my boxes a little bigger so I have more room to write. So 3 by 3, we want this one to be. So we have a 3w plus a 2u minus a 7 times 7w plus 2u minus 1. So taking my 3w times each of those, 3w times 7w. 21w squared, right? Both of them have w's. 3w times 2u.
6uw.
6uw. 3w times minus 1.
Negative 3w.
Negative 3w. So we got the first one multiplied out. So we're going to take our 2u times each of those. 2u times 7w.
14uw.
14uw. 2u times 2u.
4u squared.
4u squared. And 2u times a minus 1.
Negative 2u.
Negative 2u. And then my negative 7 times each of those. So negative 7 times 7w.
49w.
Negative
Oh,
49w. Negative 7 times 2u.
negative 14u.
14u. And then negative 7 times negative 1.
7.
Positive 7. And so looking for my like terms there, I've got uw's that can go together, I've got plain w's that go together, and I've got u's that go together. So I have 21w squared. If I do these two together, 14 plus 6 would give me 20 uw. I suppose I could do my 4u squared, positive 4u squared. I need more room to write, so I did that one. Negative 2u, nope, I gotta do my w's. Well, it doesn't matter which ones I do. Negative 49 minus 3 will give me 52, negative 52w. I'll just write it down here. And then I have negative 2 minus 14, so negative 16u, and then the plus 7. So all of that would go in for your answer. Again, the order really doesn't make a whole lot of difference, just so you've got them all there. And I get a great big long answer that I get to type in. (16, 17, and 18 are dividing polynomials. And when you divide it, basically you're just going to separate it into each separate fraction and simplify. So I'm going to make this 6x to the 4th divided by 2x squared minus 12x to the 3rd divided by my 2x squared. So we divide our coefficients, we subtract Why did I write a squared instead of a 4? We subtract our exponents when we're dividing with the same base. So 6x to the 4th divided by 2x squared would give me
3x
squared. Yep, 4 minus 2 is 2. Negative 12 divided by 2 would give me negative 6, and then x to the 3rd divided by x squared, I subtract, so I just get 6 minus 6x. So 3x squared minus 6x is just going to be my answer then. So on the next one we have 16v to the 6th divided by 4v to the 3rd minus 20v to the 3rd divided by 4v to the 3rd plus 8v divided by 4v to the 3rd. So on the first one we would get
4v to the 3rd.
4v to the 3rd. 16 divided by 4 is 4, and 6 minus 3 is 3. Minus,
5v,
now here you're just going to get,
5v.
what's going to happen with your v's?
Oh, you cancel out.
Ah, they're going to cancel out. I'm just going to get minus 5 because 3 minus 3 is 0, so they cancel each other out. Now the last one's a little bit trickier yet. What's going to happen with that one?
You put it underneath.
It's going to be underneath. There's going to be a 2 on the top, and then I have 1 minus 3, which is negative 2, which means it flips down to the bottom. And so I get plus 2 over v squared. So I get 4v to the 3rd minus 5 plus 2 over v squared for my answer. So number 18, if I'm doing that one, I have 18x to the 6th divided by 3x squared, which would give me 6x to the 4th. Then I'm going to have minus 4x to the 5th divided by 3x squared. What's going to happen with that one? Can't do anything with our numbers, but we can cancel out our variables, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to get,
X series.
so this is going to be x to the 3rd, so I'm going to have minus 4x to the 3rd over 3 then. And then we have plus 9x squared divided by 3x squared, which would give me just a 3. X squareds are going to cancel out, so I just get the 3. So sometimes you're going to have those crazy looking fractions in there because we can't simplify it all the way. And then we have what they call polynomial long division. So we're going to do long division with variables in there. And so we are going to take x plus 5 and we're going to divide it into 6x squared plus 37x plus 39. When you do a polynomial long division, your goal is to cancel out the leading term as you go. So what you're thinking about is, what can I take times the x to get a 6x squared? What times x is 6x squared?
Wait,
I need a 6, and I need
X squared. Wait.
just one x because there's already an x there, right?
Yeah.
So what you're thinking about is if I take 6x squared and I divide it by a 6, or by just an x, just taking one x out of there. If I take one x out of there, I get 6x. So once I put that up there, I'm then going to multiply it times both things in my divisor. So 6x times x is 6x squared. Those should match up. 6x times 5 is plus 30x. Most of the time those won't match up, but occasionally they do. Then what we do is we subtract. Just like when we do long division, once we multiply, we subtract. And so when I subtract, this becomes negative, and we can cancel out that leading term. 37 minus 30 then would give me 7x, and then the plus 39 comes down behind that. So then basically we're going to repeat that process. What times x gives me 7x?
7.
A 7, and it's going to be a positive 7, so we're going to put the plus sign there since it's not our leading term. So 7 times x is 7x. 7 times 5 is positive 35. But then we have to subtract, so we can cancel out that leading term. 39 minus 35 is 4. So our quotient is 6x plus 7. Our remainder is 4. Now if I wanted to check that answer, what I would do is take my divisor of x plus 5 times my quotient of 6x plus 7 and add my remainder of 4 to see if I get what I started with. So x times 6x is 6x squared. X times 7 is 7x. 5 times 6x is 30x. 5 times 7 is 35. And then the plus 4 that's on the end. So I get 6x squared. 7 plus 30 is 37x. 35 plus 4 is 39. Hey, I got the right thing. So if you wanted to take the time to check that, that's what you do. Take your divisor, times your quotient, add your remainder. So number 20, if I'm going to do long division, I'm taking x plus 4, dividing it into x squared plus 10x plus 20. So, what would I take times x to get x squared? Just a plain x. I'm going to multiply that out, so I'm going to get x squared plus 4x. I then have to subtract so that I can cancel out that leading term. And so I'm going to bring down 6x and my plus 20. That's on the end. And then I'm going to repeat that. X times what would give me 6x?
Or just 6.
Just a 6, a plus 6 up there then. So multiplying that out, I would get
6x
6x plus 24. I then have to subtract, and so my remainder is going to be negative 4. So my quotient is x plus 6, my remainder, negative 4. Number 21 says we're going to take 3x plus 2 and divide it into 15x squared plus 31x plus 14. So, what times 3x would give you 15x squared? 5x, right? So 5x times a 3x would be my 15x squared. 5x times 2 is plus 10x. Then I'm going to subtract so I can cancel out my leading term. 31x minus 10x would be 21x and plus 14. So what times my 3x would give me 21x?
7.
A positive 7. If I multiply that out, I would get 21x plus 14, right? And then I have to subtract, so my remainder is 0. So my quotient, 5x plus 7. This time I get a remainder of 0. All right, so that is homework day 27. Go ahead and work on our pie chart till about 10.